feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it's sink or swim, only option is to win. In the murky water, not a thought of giving in. I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it's sink or swim, only option is to win. In the murky water, not a thought of giving in. Welcome to the shrimp tank. Want to put it all together. This is big things. Doing big things. Chasing big dreams. Yeah, it's all real. This life's all that it seems. All the chicks scream. All the dudes yell. This is just what I do, and I do it well. With the flow fresher than the new shoe smell. Going through hell, but homie, keep going. You know the saying, you gon' reap what you sow in. So I don't chase girls. I just chase dreams. Play the same game, but we ain't in the same league. Running a campaign, Roadie 2016. Like from the die, putting me in charge. I'm a general from the front, I'm a lead in charge. Like a federal, fell on my lap never. Going hard as ever.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Shrimp Tank podcast powered by Celsius Beverage. This is your first time tuning in. You catch all these amazing episodes up on our website, shrimptankpodcast.com. I'm joined every week with my co-host, Dr. Kevin Cox, who's going to share a brief update what is hot at FAU right now.
Well, it's a busy time of year. We got a lot of pitch competitions going on. Our big finals round of our, our signature annual event, our business pitch competition is next Wednesday. That's open to the public. You can type in FAU Adams Center, type on the competition, register and attend and come watch those pitches. And then on Thursday night, we're going to have a massive celebration. Celebrating all of our winners and participants. We're going to do that out at Tech Runway. And that event's also open to the public, but guess what, folks? It's sold out. So if you didn't register, you missed out. You blew it. It's too late.
Tough cookies.
Well,
you guys never sell at these events. What's going on? You know, at least this far in advance. You've sold them out like a day or two before, but weeks prior, that's, I feel like, unheard of down here.
Yeah, we're trying to do some more synergistic things rather than a bunch of, kind of smaller events. We're collaborating with Tech Runway, with FAU Wave, with the veterans program that I run, with the students, the Spanish track, and the youth track, first time ever this year. So we're bringing them all together. So we're actually not very surprised that the event is full. That said, if you were to find that event on Eventbrite, you'd see an email there where you can inquire about getting registrations. And we can maybe accommodate a few more if you're really interested in attending that.
So what you're saying is you're accepting donations to the FAU Adams Center for
We're always accepting sponsorship and donations. And remember, folks, those are 100% tax deductible because here at FAU and the Adams Center, we are a 501c3 and we are glad to partner and could use the support always.
Well, that's awesome. Well, this is your first time tuning in. This is the podcast where street smarts and book smarts collide. We get to interview the best and brightest entrepreneurs from South Florida, find the do's and don'ts of running a business. And this is the first season where we have a FAU entrepreneurship class sitting in on the podcast. Half the class sits in, the other half is sitting back watching it on YouTube, or at least we hope they're watching it on YouTube, right?
Yeah, and the other half's at home today. I don't know, like nobody showed up.
No one showed up for class. Come on, Kevin. Too easy going. You got to put your foot down. It's a requirement on Wednesdays. You can't be at home watching this on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you're listening out there, put a comment so we know that you are indeed watching if you're an FAU student, okay? And ask our guest a question, and I'll read it out loud during today's episode. Okay, let's get into our guest today. Val is the founder of JVX Tech, and we're going to get into detail about her entrepreneurial experience in general, but also, she does a lot with FAU, so I'm excited to hear. Val, welcome to the Shrimp Tank.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So kick things off. Tell us a little bit about the brand.
Of course. So to clarify, I am the co-founder. I have a business partner. A little bit about our brand. Basically, I absolutely love helping a startup get started, basically, and helping them succeed. And there's no easy way to do that. And the key to a successful startup, from what I've seen, has been really focusing on how you structure the company from the beginning, having, standard process operations, your legal side of things, and especially in the health industry, it is really important to have all of those things in place in order to scale and grow appropriately.
I think that's missing today because so many entrepreneurs look that it's so easy to start a business, right? Shopify, you can start an Instagram account for free, you can start a website for free these days, and they got going and they start utilizing Google ads, Facebook ads, and business comes in. but their terms and conditions were completely faked, right, on ChatGPT. Then the legal side, like, just it's not really tying to their brand, and often it runs them into trouble, and especially healthcare. Like, they start hiring employees, and they don't know what they're doing. They go
Right.
to a payroll service, but that's like one side of the issues there, But then,
Right.
like, hell yeah, I mean, when you got orders coming in, you got to react quick, and a lot of people get into trouble,
Right.
right? So speak about on the healthcare side, that seems to be your niche. Why healthcare, and what are you guys doing that's unique?
Of course. Yeah. So healthcare, just quickly, for me, has always been a part of my life, and what I've wanted to do is I'm Colombian. I'm an immigrant, and my dad was a dentist. And basically, when we moved here, we lost everything. The classic immigrant story. And because of that, I decided that I really wanted to be a part of changing healthcare here in the U.S. I would get ear infections, and we couldn't go to the hospital because that would put us out of food and stuff like that. So early on, that's just definitely what I wanted to do. Um, I was here at FAU actually getting my bachelor's in exercise science, and I was teaching Spanish to executives. And that's where I really learned a little bit about business, and decided to mix that with healthcare, and got my master's in health administration here. And really what I've seen is that in the healthcare industry, business can get really messy. And like what we were saying in the beginning, when startups just start hiring, right? They grow really fast. I moved out to Silicon Valley, and I was employee 6 at a startup there.
Sure.
And basically, I started seeing that when I was talking to other companies that were also hiring that fast, they didn't have a process in place. And so because of that, then you'd have turnover, then you'd have a group of people that weren't working together well, or, just like there was a drama in the business,
Hard.
and
Yeah.
you can have all the vision and no process and break. You have to have all the right components, and part of that is the legal side, the people operations, what they call it now, which is talent acquisition, human resources, and employee experience.
So explain the niche that you go into now, and then, like, how does
Yeah.
the process start where they hire you
Yeah.
and fix a lot of these problems that they have?
So the niche is basically health tech companies that are anywhere from, like, I mean, they could be from seed all the way to C, but really we come in different approaches, but really solving one problem. One would be like if you just need your organizational documents, that's where my business partner can come in and set that up for them. And even I'll do the operations or hiring or giving them a plan, right? And then they can take it from there. That's one approach. Another way that we help them is, as an example, a company that knows that they need to hire a ton of people, or even like a VP or C level or director level of human resources, but they don't even know where to start, or they have no clue. And if you hire the wrong person, then you hire a ton of wrong people. So coming in as a fractional and just giving them a gap analysis, educating them on what they need for their business, coming in on that front as legal, HR, and operations, and then hiring for them, and then staying as an advisor.
Yeah, so I was really excited to have you on the show today. Most people who listen to this already know, working with startups is primarily what I do, the overwhelming majority of my time, and it's what I've done for the past decade, right? So I was very curious to learn a little bit more about your business model, because given the amount of startups I work with, I'm often encouraged by people to, why don't you start a consulting? You're kind of losing your mind. I work with typically 40 to 60 companies at a time, and they all want something or have a problem or just start emailing me. Probably during this show. I'll get back to you.
Make them call you on Owl, Kevin. Make them put in the work.
The problem is, right, in terms of like, well, I could, basically paid gate that, but they are terrible customers typically, right? They never have any money for the most part, because they're startups, or if they do, they're burning right through it so fast. It sounds like you work with companies, primarily those that are past their first round of fundraising, but how do you navigate startups as a customer, which I know are, tricky?
Yeah, I think finding a way to add value is through the relationships that I've already created, right? Like I have helped startups start from ground up, build them up. So from that comes my network, right? The previous company that I worked with, our CEO, she's part of some VC firms, and my mentor is also part of some of those. And honestly, word of mouth of understanding what company I'm coming into, understanding their state of business, understanding if it's the right fit, and coming in from that approach has been like the founding of who I work with, basically.
Okay, tell us a little bit more about those companies and those customers. Health is super broad.
Yeah.
So is it all things health really? Is it primarily
Yeah.
pharmaceuticals, patient care?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be anything. Is it all of the above, or does it tend to be usually in this area of
Yeah.
healthcare?
I'd say usually in the like telemedicine, mostly remote companies, like healthcare companies that have a remote workforce that do deal with patient care, and are usually like smaller. They start from like 50 to like 100 and are scaling from there. And mostly like virtual services. As an example, the last company was asynchronous telemedicine that they offered. They now are one of the ones that power Amazon. So that type of different healthcare that isn't the traditional teledoc, as an example, but
Yeah.
in that realm.
Okay, so definitely later stage than the messy companies I'm typically
Mm,
love all the companies work with, but usually they're 1.5 to 5 employees, most of
yeah,
which
those
aren't
are
being
tough.
paid.
Yeah.
So they're really really kind of early stage, but
Yeah.
that's a lot of fun. And then they do scale up quickly once they figure out a business model that is reproducible and works, and something that can potentially scale. It's kind of finding that fit that we spend or waste most of our time doing.
I would say with the 1 to 5, I would love to start with a company like that, because that's where I started with. My previous company was Hello Alpha, and it was so much easier to build, right, or help like put a process together or structure from the beginning, because it was so much easier to scale. Right, I was with them when the pandemic hit. I was able to hire people very quickly, very efficiently, and have retention because of that. If I come into a business that they didn't have that from the beginning, it's more of a cleanup process.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because I'm going to give you at least one lead right after the show today that is right there in that position and really needs some kind of operational support. So I can already think of at least one person and maybe two that are local South Florida companies in healthcare, and both, in my opinion, have really really attractive kind of business ideas, but they're both very heavy lifts. Like,
yeah.
it will take, like most things in healthcare, a lot to scale, but they could be tremendously impactful, not just in terms of printing money, but also delivering better care to patients
Right.
faster, developing new drugs faster, or getting people or drugs through clinical trials faster.
Mm.
And how many customers do you take on at once? Or clients?
It varies. I'll say this. I have a lot of different resources I will tap into if I have too many customers. Does that make sense?
What's a ballpark though? Are we talking
Right.
5 to
Let's
10,
let's
10 to
see.
20, 30 to 40? Like,
No, not right now.
because you get your hands,
No.
so involved with these brands, they need a lot of you. There's
Exactly.
only, you have the skill set. You can't just duplicate yourself times 20, right?
No,
Like what you're
agreed.
talking about is really sensitive to their company. You need to get in there and learn so much about their brand, their
Mhm.
CRM technology, the benefits they use, and the list keeps going on and on with
Yeah.
all their processes.
Of
So,
course.
okay.
I would say, so I'll tell you right now, I just got married, so I scaled back.
Gotcha.
So right now I have I have 3 clients, and one of them has been with me for a little bit.
Okay.
So it's more takes a lot of my time, but I'm already well versed in everything, so it's a little bit more seamless.
Sure.
So that's currently like where I'm at. My business partner I know has about 6 or 7
Okay.
clients. And so it just depends on the work and like what the project is, and we're still as a company scaling to be able to reach more, but I would advise any company to do it smart and slowly, and never like at the expense of like the experience for patients or clients.
Okay, so I want to go backwards in time a little bit, talk about, before this company started, how did you get going? Did you get mentorship from parents? Did you get it from professors? Like, how did you really become this entrepreneur you are today? And then, of course, just having a partner, in business, right? You just mentioned that partner has more clients, and then all of a sudden there could be frustration depending on how the payouts are and how to even come up with the payouts for that type of business.
Yeah.
So I want to get through, just you as an entrepreneur in the business under the hood, not just like the client, side of things.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, as I shared a little bit, I'm Colombian immigrant. My dad, that fuels in me the want to have them not to take care of me early on. So I couldn't work early on. So that's why I was teaching Spanish, because I found myself to be very resourceful early on. And I nannied. And so when I graduated with my bachelor's, I got into the master's program, but I didn't want my family to pay for it. So then this is an example of not taking no for an answer, but I was told that there was no graduate assistant positions for the master's program, and I really wanted one because it's great, and they pay like 50% of, I think they pay 90% of your tuition plus your books, and you get paid part-time, which is
Not a
great.
bad deal. Yeah.
Anyway, so I was told there was no positions, and so I printed out my resume and a cover letter, and I delivered it all across this campus in every single department.
Old school.
And
Out there.
when
We
was
call that door knocking in
when
our
was this?
You're gonna date me. Let's see. I think it was 2014. So yeah, 2014.
well,
There was
that's
still
not-
social media. There's still stuff.
That's not that long ago.
Yeah. So I mean, but the old school way catches people's attention because you're so used to just ignoring your email sometimes. Let's be honest. So, anyways, the health administration department called me a week before the program started that a position opened up. So I ended up working with them, and that department is just amazing. But I dove into every opportunity just because I knew that that's what my parents worked hard to do, and so I wanted to honor that. And so I learned as much as I could from them. I would sit in like the offices with them. I'd ask them questions. They would tell me there's an event. I would go. I would sign up for everything. Was it comfortable? No, but I always decided to put myself in those uncomfortable situations, just because I knew it would help me grow. And if I wanted to be something or somewhere, like just doing that, as much as I didn't want to a lot of the time. So I constantly put myself in those situations that I think is important for students to do. And from there, actually, with Pierre, and he actually had just begun in that program, which is why I was excited. So I wrote my first research paper with him, and he sent me off. Well, we went to the he would kill me for this. I forget, something economics, and I presented it, and I was terrified. So that was my first time like really speaking about something I just learned, basically. But I, presented it like I'd known it forever, and I really enjoyed it. So from that, I ended up in the stem cell industry. I graduated, and I started working with actually Pierre connected me with them, and it was basically they did adipose derived stem cells. And so I worked with a scientist, and I built out their operations. So that was my first like full blown build out, and I created like a blueprint for the clinics, and I would do a lot of the public speaking for her because she was scared of flying. So I did that. Another scary thing, because I mean, I learned it from her, and that's what I was, presenting. And I opened up 5 clinics and ended up connecting with a ton of people in that industry. The FDA shut that down real good. And, but I always really was excited about like changing the way that healthcare worked, or finding new and innovative ways, or like there's always a way to do it. It's just about how, like, challenging yourself. And that's where like I light up. And so that is what I learned from that experience. And then I moved out of San Francisco, and I was, I moved out of San Francisco, and I ended up at Alpha, helloalpha.com. And I was employee 6, and basically I was handed like literally like note, like, what are those called? Post-its.
They're like, here's your job.
Yeah. They're
Here's a
like,
Post-it.
here.
Figure it out.
And I'm like, what? And we were like in a treat, like I don't know. It was like this office. It was like half an office. It was all open, so everybody could hear you. But there was like one closet that was the like conference room. It was very Silicon Valley, and I was constantly overdressed because everybody was like very down. Anyway, so it was a really cool experience, and I loved the mission. And I told myself, like, if I worked for any company out there, I'd really, really be excited about it. And so I got to work with engineers, the designers, the CEO, the chief medical officer, and basically you just build, right? You just start creating, building, and innovating. And we had 100 patients. We ended up growing it. I think they have like 50,000 patients now or more that they've served. And so I helped build all of that patient side, and learn design and product and talking to engineers and all that side. And then that happened successfully, and our retention was very high for that department. So one of the board members asked me to take a career pivot and become the head of people and help the rest of the company scale when we got our Series B funding. And so I ended up scaling them from, I think, 60 to 180 in under 18 months, and very low turnover. I think it was like 7%. And so I found myself like, I got more education at Cornell, and I ended up loving that. And then I realized that there's a lot of companies that don't scale correctly, and there's a way to do it. You just need to be resourceful and have like the right people to do it.
Awesome. So you took a big pivot, went out on your own with your partner, of course, and now on a goal to impact millions and millions of people, because as you impact one brand, they could have 100 employees, but that could grow to thousands of employees and just make massive amount of impact. What I took from that story is just open as many doors as you possibly can, and pretty much just take opportunities. You don't know what's going to come at you when you open up a lot of doors, and just run with it. You took an opportunity in San Francisco and ran with it. And, it doesn't always work out, right? Lots of times with 5-6 employees, that company would be out of business in 3-4 months, right? And in your case, you believed in it so much. The other people, part of the team, did as well, and just absolutely scaled it and led to so many opportunities. It's so cool to be in those early stage brands that do that. We're going to take a quick commercial break.
Well, I was just going to add one thing for any students who might be listening out there. Those graduate teaching assistants and graduate research assistant positions still exist. They still steeply discount tuition. And the health administration department sits within the management department, which is the same place the Adams Center is. But even on the non-health admin side, we have those positions in the graduate business college. And anybody who works with them or with the Adams Center, they typically, if they're good, right? We know Val was very good. They typically, and I make sure they end up wherever they want when they're done with school. And we still very much do that today. So if you're looking for one of those positions to subsidize graduate school, reach out.
Go Owls. There you go. We're going to take a quick commercial break to hear from one of our sponsors. We get back, we're going to jump into our next segment of the show.
Join the fastest growing community of professionals on the internet with OWL. Access new networks and otherwise unreachable professional contacts through the one-on-one call feature on the app. Scroll through the list of available professionals and join them for a quick call to build rich connections, expand invaluable relationships, and to broaden your professional landscape without needing lofty referrals. Owl. We bring vetted pros to your doorstep 24/7 on demand. Join our community by signing up at owl.com today.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Shrimp Tank. Catch all these episodes live every single week. We air them up on YouTube, my LinkedIn account, Jason R. Hill, as well as Instagram these days. And you catch the episode, drop a question in the comments, and get the opportunity where we will ask it during the show. Okay. Val, in this segment, it's called What's Hot. Our FAU students are going to ask you a question and dive deep into, what they're asking you about in business, what's hot. So we're going to start with our first student of the day.
Hello, thank you for finding time and coming here to FAU to show a little bit of your experience and what you've done with yourself. My question for you is, early on you said that you were very resourceful, and I'm sure that grew as you continued being more and more resourceful with your stuff. My question is specifically, what skills do you think would be very beneficial for somebody who is trying to do what you're doing right now, and they're here at FAU, starting on their first year in university?
Yeah. What I'm doing specifically, like my job.
Yes.
Well, it's funny you say that because I never thought I'd be doing what I'm doing. And I feel like that's a big thing when you come to school. You think you're very clear in what it is, but you might end up doing something completely different. So my recommendation and what I've done since I got the opportunity to work is to always just do what I'm doing to the best of my ability. And that would mean, like, even if it's the most simple, like smallest job or whatever that looked like how good can I do this? And I feel like that gives you insight to your skills, to what lights you up and what you like and don't like, that will ultimately lead you to what you're supposed to do. If it's what I'm doing exactly, then I would definitely just follow, like, learning as much as you can about healthcare. And even at this age and where you are at school, like attending as many events as you can and connecting with your peers, because you're all going to be each other's people that you hire, and with the professors at the school. Ask them questions, ask to be a part of their networks, what associations to join, and use that, because all the connections I made early on from doing that, I still tap into now that I'm back in Fort Lauderdale. So definitely, that's what I would say.
Great points. And we got a couple big events next week where you can
There you go.
definitely meet some founders, business owners, other stakeholders in our ecosystem. So great opportunities always here at FAU.
And of course, on the Owl app, all our guests download it, become experts, and a week later they make themselves available, right? But you have to make sure you follow the experts so you get a notification that they're available to chat, and then jump in there, stop what you're doing, and call them. Too often people are like, I'm watching a TV show, I want to get to the end, and I don't want to hit the pause button. And I look at that as crazy. You have an entrepreneur that is giving back their knowledge on our platform for $1, which is practically free, and all the students have money in their Owl accounts. We loaded it up, but week in and week out happen on the show, and we see entrepreneurs getting calls, but not from students. So it's like, take that opportunity, because no one really knows that trick exists. So to get in there and have a one-on-one conversation with Val next week is a phenomenal opportunity, right? Because her time is so sensitive, of course. Okay, we're going to take a question from another FAU student.
I don't think my question is really good, but were you expecting to get into the medical field? Were you expecting to get into the medical field when you were at FAU?
I always knew I wanted to be in the medical field. I didn't know I was going to be in the operations side. I thought I wanted to be a nurse anesthetist, but then I actually, because I couldn't work, I volunteered so much in the hospital, and I was like, can't do this. So
yeah, that's a great point. I know a few really sharp med students who, when it was time for residency, it was like, oh, wait a minute, I hate this, actually. So where else can I fit? And luckily there are plenty of opportunities to interact with and be a part of healthcare systems, the industry as a whole, without necessarily working from a hospital directly with patients. That's not for everybody.
Yes.
I'm also an immigrant. I'm from Brazil. And I think that it's a lot of respect, like you come from another country and you come in with that drive to do everything you can to stand out and, become like entrepreneur, starting a business. I think that's really cool. And I really identify with that. But I have two questions. So you said like you're giving out advice and consulting, right, to healthcare facilities. So when you do that, do you also tap into the science side of thing, or you just kind of help build out that business structure?
Yeah, that's a great question. I work with doctors and nurse practitioners and RNs and whoever it is on the scientific side to get whatever it is that we need. So I've learned a lot, but I'm not, a doctor or anything like that. And I make that very clear with whatever it is that we build out. But I learned so much. I collaborate with them a lot.
Gotcha. And then another question is, if you have any competition, any other like advising companies like you, like what do you do to really stand out from them?
Yeah, I mean, our I don't think we have like competition. I don't even know. Like, there are so many ways that you could look at a competitor, right? Like, if I'm hiring a talent acquisition company, could be a competitor, But specifically, what we do exactly, we've actually had one of them reach out to us to help them streamline their workflow, and we're collaborating from there. So at the end of the day, if you think about it, we're all trying to achieve the same mission, which is like change healthcare, make it better, put patients first, right? So we can, just like we do that with any company, right? That's how you relieve it of drama. You just focus on the mission, right? If we could do that collectively, then it's not necessarily a competitor. I'll find a way to work with you, So looking at it that way versus like making it, intimidating.
Those were some great questions. Way to turn things around after that last one. All right, so now I get to ask a couple questions because I want to. So it can be one of your clients, or it can be just something you've read about, or someone you want to be one of your clients. What is the hottest thing in healthcare? It can be a technology, a pharmaceutical. What's hot?
The hottest thing in healthcare.
That's up and coming,
It's a
that maybe
loaded
you know
question.
about. There's a lot of
Okay.
different sectors, but something
Well-
more specific than like a general, like, well, personalized healthcare is
Okay.
coming, or this or that.
Okay, I mean, this is a really tough question for me because I'm a perfectionist and I'm going to want to answer this right for myself. So, but I'm not going to. But what I will say is I'll share a company that has gotten my attention.
Okay.
Okay. It's actually a company that my husband works for. It's called RX Redefined, and they're actually changing the DME space. And so, like
And what is that for our listeners?
the durable medical equipment.
Okay.
So it's not that hot, but it's a big, big industry when it comes to healthcare. So, for the audience, usually for DMEs, like there's a company that has reps that go into offices that are able to give the supplies. And so this company is kind of changing that and applying also some software into offices and facilitating this for providers and really streamlining patients. And basically, they're receiving faster and better care through this company, which is in adversely hurting other DME companies. But at the end of the day, it's really, really achieving that goal. And from what I've seen, they're a very, very well-structured startup that I was very impressed with how they're doing things. So,
Okay,
yeah.
very cool. Let's see if any of the smaller startups that I work with have come across your radar. Are you familiar with a few companies? I'll just list them all at once. Evolve, spelled with a Q, Modern Trials, or Golden Hour Medical?
Evolve, I've heard. Yes. But
he's a past guest of the Shrimp Tank. That's Andrew Satz, who does AI and machine learning to identify very high potential molecules.
Nice.
Biomedical research in 90% less time than you would in a lab. So
I love that.
pretty interesting.
Makes sense. I love AI. That's a whole nother topic for me.
Yeah, see,
That's
I know
awesome.
being the grad assistant. Like, I was a nerd. Okay,
I am a nerd.
Like, we've all figured it out. Like, she seems really cool and outgoing, but she's a nerd. Like
I'm a huge nerd.
That's why I asked her during the break when she was going to do her executive PhD, and her answer was no.
No.
So no more school. But I can tell she's done those research presentations, and she said those are exciting. I do those all the time. They're super boring. So like that, these are the clues to me figuring this out.
Thank you. I won't out myself as a nerd next time.
Okay, I'm going to head over to a conversation that I understand a little bit more. I'm not as deep as you two in the medical field, but when it comes to hiring, that seems to be one of the biggest issues with most of the brands that come on the Shrimp Tank. Right, and early in the show, you said you helped the company go from in the 60s to close to 200 people in a short time period, and also at 7%. When it came to the retention rate, which is practically impossible, right? Because people are going to come in no matter what happens, get a job offer somewhere else, and be like, ooh, they're paying $40,000 more. I'm going to take it, regardless how good you treat them.
Yeah.
Right. So tell us, what is hot when it comes to hiring right now, and really to hold people to your brand?
Yeah. Well, what's hot in hiring right now? What I've seen work, that scaling came from like refining a structure and hiring from the patient operations side, right? So I was employee 6, but I was literally 1 out of 2 people on the team. And so I scaled that to 35 people. Okay. And in that came some learnings, right? That's where you learn to fail, right? So there was a couple of things that happened that helped me refine the process that I was able to do that so clean. But some of the key things I would say is the process. We stuck to a process, and we were really clear on the vision, really clear on the mission. The compensation was clear. And also the questions that were being asked were streamlined, and our recruiter led that. Also keeping into account diversity, right? And making sure that it was a clean process for that, and that everybody was evaluated equally.
So I've seen a lot of companies have a clear process, but then on the other side, like the real work environment, is different, right?
Yeah.
You can put anything on paper, email, and you're like, okay, that's all great. But in the reality, when the leader shows up, like, they're annoying, right? Or, they're rude.
Yeah.
Right? So kind of talk about just the real live situation, why people wanted to come to the office on a weekly basis, and what you guys do to make it special.
Yeah.
Regardless of pay, of course. Like, anyone could just pay them more.
Of course. And that's a really great point, because, as we paid, as an example, cash and equity, right? So that gives you skin in the game, and that gives you some leverage, as like you're working all towards someone, because you're all going to make off of that, right? So that's one piece. The other one is having like a really strong people operations person that is streamlining communications across managers, across all of the departments, and has a seat at the table in the executive team that can speak for the people, right? So I think that really brings it together to help remove potential toxicity that may exist, and do it fast, and have people on your side to help you do it.
Yeah, those are great points, because we've seen so many business owners come on the show, and it's just like they try everything, and then they have 20 to 40% retention situations going on with their brand. They jump right back to Indeed, and just like hiring, firing, right? And lots of times it starts at the tippy top, the leader.
Yep,
right.
It does.
Walking in the front door, saying good morning.
Right.
And after a while, sometimes it gets old, but it still means something. Lots of
course. Yeah.
Right. And it's not just a motivational quote on the wall or a post on social media.
No.
It's showing up. And I like the part that you said you gave equity out, right?
Yeah.
Because lots of brands, try to hold it just for the CEO, and then they just, I'll do equity one day, right? But when you have a team around you, and they get shares of the company, that they've been part of that journey with you, especially when it's small, when it's
Mhm.
under 30 people, it means the world to them.
Yeah.
And know that like the vision is there. Like, hey, one day we're going to impact millions of people with this technology, and just keep saying it and saying
Right.
it. And then one day, it happens.
Yeah.
Right. And they're like, that was the coolest part, being part of that journey in those early days, just with the process, working late nights, and it was worth it.
Mhm. Totally.
We're going to take a quick commercial break here from one of our sponsors. When we get back, we're going to jump into our next segment of the show.
Step into our state-of-the-art innovation lab and create your digital future. Oz uses cutting-edge technology and 22 years of industry knowledge to enhance customer experience through digital innovation in a variety of expertise. Oz is a leading global consulting company whose services and solutions are trusted by startup, midsize, and even Fortune 500 companies. Get to know more about Oz's Salus, a mobile solution bringing us back to max capacity, and their latest solution, Rainmaker, saving insurance companies years of work. To learn more about Oz and their exciting technologies, visit followoz.com. That's FOLLOWOZ.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Shrimp Tank. That was Oz Digital Consulting. For anyone that did not know, they actually are the ones who built the Owl app. Good at building technology, really good with AI stuff. So if you need something built, go ahead and reach out. But of course, they look mostly for companies that are not startups. They're 50 plus employees. So be careful if you're a startup. They not the cheapest one around if you need to wing it in those early days. So Val, on this segment of the show, it is called Hot or Not. Not Hot or Not. It's called Plead the Fifth. Sorry about that. Need a Celsius, I guess, to wake up. So Plead the Fifth is all designed where we ask a question, you don't want to answer it. You say, I plead the fifth. Okay. So let's talk about your biggest marketing failure, right? You had a company that, only had 6 employees. You got some funding and you're like, oh, we got money. Now let's go spend it and do something cool with marketing. What was the biggest financial mess up when it came to marketing that cost you guys a lot of money?
Marketing. We kept someone in a seat way too long that we knew wasn't producing.
Okay.
Right. I would say that.
Yeah, which is hard.
Yeah.
You gotta terminate sometimes when you see the data and the data says fire, but you're like, but they're so nice. I like grabbing dinner with them.
Exactly.
Right. And they're a cool person, but the data says, they're not bringing up new business.
Right.
Cool.
Okay, so you've helped with all this hiring, scaling employees. What is the hardest state to hire people in?
State?
You mentioned so many virtual-oriented companies. I imagine you're doing hiring from different states. I know which one I would guess based on some of the regulatory requirements. But what about from your perspective?
I mean, I guess it's not hardest because you could hire from any state, but I would say like California is definitely like one of the.
Yeah, that's the one I had in mind. And why is that?
I would say because, well, right now it's evening out also with New York, I would say, and so Miami. Just also their compensation is much higher than other states, but I had a approach towards that, but we did lose some people that we wanted to hire from there because of that. There's other reasons, but yeah, that would be the main one.
Yeah, that's one of the things we talk about with our startups because so many of them are working virtually now, and they may be familiar with laws that are typically like we don't have employment law in Florida, right? We just have federal. Well, that's not the case everywhere.
No.
And when you hire someone from there, those laws apply. So you need to be familiar with those laws or work with an expert like Val who can help you navigate and say, wait, where do they live?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, there need to be some other policies and procedures or steps into place. That's an area where I've seen some costly mistakes.
Costly mistakes is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
That's why we usually standardize, like if you are hiring across all 50 states, like a handbook that could cover all of them.
Okay, now let's get
And you get some fines along the way.
Yeah.
It's hard to avoid all fines in all these states.
All right, let's get Val to plead the fifth. Who was your worst professor at FAU?
I plead the fifth.
We got her.
It's easy.
That's what I was going to ask. I had it lined up.
Yeah, no.
Okay, who was your favorite professor? There you go.
That's plead the fifth.
Well,
I'm not
now
gonna
You
do
said
that.
worst. You think a favorite? Favorite's easy.
No, I
No,
can't
there's
do
no
that.
one favorite?
All of the health administration department equal.
Okay. Okay.
except for that one that she won't name.
Okay. Well, Val, thank you for joining us here on the Shrimp Tank today. For our audience listening, if they want to get in touch with you, what's your website? What's your social handles, for example?
Yeah, totally. So www.jvx.tech is our website. And you can always email us at contact@jvx.tech. And our handle on Instagram is everything's jvx.tech. So
There
you
we
can
go.
look us
Nice
up.
and easy.
Same on LinkedIn.
Good
so,
marketing right there.
yeah,
Keep everything uniform.
easy.
Right? Too many times new entrepreneurs
Mhm.
mess around with different social handles, different names, and then it becomes an absolute mess one day, of course, fixing it all. Well, thank you for joining us here on the Shrimp Tank. Everyone listening, we'll be back next Wednesday around 1 o'clock. Take care.
Thank you.
Feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it take a